que o Verstappen teve com o Hamilton foi meio parecido esse que teve acho que foi na Inglaterra.
Em Silverstone?
É.
Não, o neguinho meteu o carro e deixou.
This is Nelson Piquet, former F1 driver, calling Lewis Hamilton the N-word.
Mas foi o que o Senna fez.
Não, o Senna não fez isso. O Senna saiu reto. Reto.
Você acha que ele não faria aquela curva?
Ele? Nunca.
Entendi.
Não, ele foi pra assim, aqui eu arranco ele de qualquer maneira. Não. Deixou o carro, e é uma curva, é porque você não conhece a curva, é uma curva muito de alta, não tem jeito de passar dois carros, e não tem jeito de você botar o carro do lado.
He then used the racial slur again in this sit-down interview. Lewis Hamilton, the sport's lone black driver, has knelt at Formula One races, supported the Black Lives Matter movement, and used his voice for the promotion of diversity in sport. CNN reported Piquet used a Brazilian Portuguese racial slur to describe seven-time champ Hamilton when addressing a high-speed collision involving Hamilton and Max Verstappen during the Silverstone Grand Prix last year. The racist term was used by the three-time F1 world champ in November of last year, but only came to light recently when the interview was released Monday. For Hamilton, this is unfortunately nothing new.
It's a big race for British competitor Lewis Hamilton. He could take the F1 title, but race of a different kind, I'm afraid, has become an issue for the black driver this week. He's been the target of racist abuse on a Spanish-language website called Burst Hamilton's Ties.
It started when I was 5, my first experience of racism, and it continued through school.
He told Evening Standard in November 2020 that as a child, he was told by adults, teachers, and parents alike that he would not make it. Go back to your country. He would add all these horrible things, and I remember thinking, I'm going to prove you wrong, he said.
Walking through parks and being jumped, having things thrown at you.
In 2008, fans in Spain sported blackface with shirts that read Hamilton's family. He opened up to the Wall Street Journal, telling the outlet, I remember the pain that I felt that day, but I didn't say anything about it. I didn't have anyone, he says. No one said anything. Well, former F1 boss Bernie Ecclestone said something. He doubled down on ugly and unpopular comments from earlier that week where he said, in lots of cases, black people are more racist than white people are. Ecclestone also thought removing statues of racist men who were involved in the slave trade was a porous notion, saying, and I quote, they should have left them there.
And then later through karting, constant racial slurs.
Ecclestone even commented on the blackface incident, saying, I'm surprised that it concerns him. I'm really unhappy if he took it seriously. I never thought he did. I didn't think it affected him. For the record, Bernie Ecclestone ran Formula One for about 40 years. The blackface incident took place in 2008. It seems like it's quite telling that Ecclestone is learning fairly recently about how Lewis Hamilton felt on this subject. Why didn't he reach out? Why didn't he try to bridge anything when it came to this incident? Why is he learning about this recently? It's quite telling, if you ask me.
Once I even turned professional, I received racial abuse and no one said anything.
Maybe, though, it shouldn't shock us regarding the former F1 head of the sport. After all, in 2009, he praised Hitler for being able to get things done, comments he later apologized for, while he also backed Vladimir Putin's controversial policy towards the LGBTQ community and said that women should dress in white like all other domestic appliances. Prior to the last race of the season at Brazil in 2008, visitors were urged to visit a voodoo-style website that invited them to drop imaginary nails on a computer version of the Interlagos track in the hope that Hamilton would suffer a puncture and hand the title to the home favorite. Many of the posts were obscene, while others referred to Hamilton's skin color.
For me, it was watching George being held down for those 8 minutes and 30 seconds. It brought up a lot of emotions that I hadn't even realized that I'd suppressed. Enough is enough.
Thus you see Hamilton's activism. You see him kneeling, You see him protesting in the streets. Yet there was also presenter Jeremy Clarkson, who did not approve. People love Max Verstappen, but they've taken a noisy dislike to Lewis. The problem is that Lewis has changed, Clarkson wrote. When he first came onto the scene, he was bright and talented and normal, and everyone loved him. But then he decided to go woke and right on and more politically correct than a student union AGM, which leads us to believe maybe it's not that Lewis Hamilton changed. Maybe it's just that Clarkson showed his true colors. That the push for equality, equity, hopefully pushing for less police brutality, and the fight for human rights just turns him off a little bit. Maybe that's what it is. In response to Piquet, Hamilton said the following: "Vamos focar en mudar a mentalidade." Portuguese for "let's focus on changing the mindset." Hamilton, who has the most race wins in F1 history, said the time has come for action on racism.